Hello, you still with me? Hope you're still with me. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I would click the go live thing, and it would do this thing where it tells me I'm going live, and then it would just sit there and not connect. So I ended up having to restart my computer. Anyway, sorry about that. About the inconvenience. Glad you're still here. And as you can see, I'm back in my altar at home. We'll do that until we figure out what else to do. Uh, well, I'm glad you're here, Chris. Yeah, I mean, you didn't miss much. I just wouldn't go live. I was able to chat with you and everything. It just couldn't go live. So we're here now. So let's get started. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it in a little bit. Start with the first of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all. Three vows. The fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present. It fills our sacred space, guards our minds from wrong thinking. Fragrance of this incense unites us with virtue, mindfulness, and wisdom. We offer it on behalf of all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for refuge. Being one with the Buddha, I resolve to each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for refuge. Being one with the Dharma, the gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. Goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for refuge. Being one with the Sangha, in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. I don't know how that could be possible, Nina. Look and see if you've got two windows open at the same time and close one of them. That doesn't really make any sense. I don't think you can play two videos at once, but you can have two windows open. And you might have done that maybe when I don't know. Anybody else? Let me know if anybody else is having an issue. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies, and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So we'll do a guided meditation tonight, being the first Wednesday of the month. Take a few deep breaths. As always, focus on letting your lungs fill and empty completely. Let your body be relaxed. In fact, as you breathe out, just imagine any tension leaving with your breath. Just let things settle down as you exhale. And let your breath settle into a comfortable, natural rhythm. Just breathing normally but deeply in a relaxed way. And as you exhale, just letting this thought ride on the breath. May I be happy. And in this moment, breathing out, just let that happiness arise that comes from within, that's found in the present moment, that's experienced one breath at a time. May I be happy. May I be free from animosity. And if there's any anger present in your heart, just set that aside, let that go. Give yourself 20 minutes without generating ill will toward anyone. This is a great gift, 20 minutes of not having to judge anyone or condemn anyone or blame anyone, fix anyone. Just breathing and accepting what is. May I be free from stress and affliction. And so whatever comes into our awareness, we don't have to hold on to it. We don't have to push it away, judge it, evaluate it. Just let it go or let it be. May I look after myself with ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from animosity. May all beings be free from stress and affliction. May all beings look after themselves with ease. And bring your attention to the breath at the tip of your nose, or the center of your chest, or the belly. Whatever is most comfortable to you. And anytime you find that your attention has wandered and you've lost track of the breath, take a few deep breaths, about 3 deep breaths, and just recenter your attention on your breathing. And for the rest of our time in meditation, we're going to concentrate on the in breath and the out breath. Try to stay with each breath completely from beginning to end. Breathing in, keeping your attention on the in breath. Breathing out, keeping your attention on the out breath. And if you need to anchor your awareness on your breath, you can count your breath. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, count 1, extending the 1 for the whole length of the out breath. And then 2, on up to 10. And then start over. And if your breath gets pretty calm and your mind gets pretty focused, you can just rest it on the breathing. You don't need to anchor your attention by counting your breaths. Or you can use just an anchor word like Buddho. Or say the Nimbutsu. And when your attention is pretty concentrated, then you can let your awareness expand to include the entire body. So still focused around your belly or your nose or the center of your chest, but just imagine your awareness radiating out with each breath. So you're breathing with the entire body each time. And notice how it feels in your body to breathe. And see if you can calm your breath a little bit by slowing down, becoming a little softer. Let the breath become more subtle. See how that feels in your body. And let's meditate this way for about 4 minutes. I won't say anything. I'll just give you 4 minutes just to feel your breath in your body. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now. In reciting the sutras, hearing the dharma, and training the mind, great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to all ancestors of this Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. Let their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for the health and well-being of all those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, and those ministering to the sick and the grieving. We pray for all those suffering from violence, for the oppressed, the imprisoned, and all refugees. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sadahantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang maihang sabe bagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings springing from the good I have done. So why am I back home? So I guess probably some of you, I didn't go into a lot of detail in the email notification, and I sort of explained this a little bit last week, but again, not a lot of detail. So I'll explain. So we were meeting at a place called the Drika Theater, and Drika, D-R-E-K-A, that's the name of a person. For those of you who don't live in the DeLand area, there was a person or family, I think it was, who were had a lot of businesses in downtown DeLand. And so there was the Drika department store, and Betty Drika's dress shop, and Drika Theater. And I think it was built as like a vaudeville house and, stage theater. Like the Athens Theater. Most of you know about that. And I'm not sure what it was used as for, like offices and stuff like that. It had been broken up. And so the Methodist Church acquired it. They've been buying up a lot of property around the church. Excuse me. And they got that for whatever reason. And so opened it. So there's a whole other thread of story here. There's another entity called the Collective Church, which opened, I want to say 6 or 8 years ago, maybe, originally. And they were a project of the Methodist Church that was, I think the plan was to appeal to younger people and, that sort of thing, and be a little bit less traditional Methodist in what they did. So they were led by a guy named Ben, who's a really nice guy, and I've posted some stuff with him and around him and in conjunction with him on Facebook and that sort of thing. I like to support what he was doing because this Christian church is very inclusive, and which didn't. So, I mean, look, I'm not involved in any way in any of these entities, but it didn't. Some of what they didn't go over too well with the Methodists, so they had a little ups and downs in their relationship there when they put things like pride flags in the window and Black Lives Matter banners and stuff like that. That created a little controversy. So they were sort of on and off. And so when they remodeled the Drika Theater building, the idea was that it would operate as a venue for performances and meetings and things like that. And a place for the Collective Church to meet. And also there was sort of this vision that there would become an interfaith center of some kind there. So the Quakers were meeting there, the DeLand Quaker congregation, and the Collective Church. And then Ben said, hey, would you guys, when you start meeting in person, would you be interested in meeting at our place? And because, so nothing against the Unitarian Universalists where we were meeting, but because there are a number of you people that I'm talking to right now, or that are going to watch the stream later, the recording later, who don't live in DeLand, or don't like to drive after dark and things like that, and have become a member of this community over the course of time after we shut down in-person meetings and when I started live streaming. And so I'll give you an example. So right now there's a half a dozen people watching the live stream. And that's kind of typical. Sometimes we get up to a dozen. I think at one point we got about 15 one night while we were at the Driga. But I'll come back in a few days and look, and there'll be 30, and then a few days later there'll be 50, and that's pretty typical. And a lot of those people are not in the land, or they're not able to be a specific place on Wednesday nights, because they're teaching a class or they're working, or whatever. So not that teaching a class isn't working, but you know what I mean. People have jobs on Wednesday night or other commitments, obligations. So I want to abandon those people. And and again, to not go into details with conversations or anything, but it was probably not going to work out to be able to live stream from the UU Church. And so when Pastor Collins at Collective Church talked to me about this, I mentioned this, and he said, well, we've live streamed since before COVID, because that was a big part of what they did, was stream their services live. And he said, we're hardwired with 5 cameras in there. And we have a production guy who can run it for you, so you don't have to think about it. And so it sounded great. It cost us a little bit more money than the UU Church was costing us, about 5 times as much. But long story short, the Collective Church finally got to the point, and if you know any of these people, you can talk to them and get the story from them. But basically, as I understand it, from a financial standpoint, and also just from the standpoint of getting all the stuff done that has to get done to have religious services in a place, just became more than the people who were doing all the work could handle. And it was not bringing enough money in to sustain it. So, this happens. And I mean, it's, I look at White Sands Buddhist Center, where I'm there 3 times a month, and I'm amazed that they have, acreage and a big temple and statues, and manage to have quite, formal services every Sunday, and somebody shows up to run the PowerPoint every Sunday and all that kind of stuff. But, they've had the advantage of being founded by an Asian community where, that was when it happened, when it was getting off the ground. That was a real important thing to that particular group of people, to have a place to go. And somebody wrote a big check, and there's people who still write big checks just to keep things going. So, because that's what it takes. It's what it takes to do this. Well, anyway, long story short. I'm sorry, it's too late. It's too late for a long story short. I've already been telling a long story. But Collective finally reached this point a few weeks ago that they said, we just can't keep doing this. And so they announced this, and then they had their final get together on Good Friday. And so I went to them and said, so what does that mean for us? And they said, well, you can keep meeting at the Drika. And they had, in the meantime, they were putting together this organization that was going to be the DeLand Interfaith Center. And they were hoping to have several religious organizations who would kind of share this space and do their stuff. And he was hoping that we would be a part of that. And honestly, I really like the idea. But he said, you can keep meeting as you are until through June. And then we'll have to figure out what else, because the finances, etc. Well, in the meantime, the guy who runs the production said he wasn't going to be able to keep doing it because, he was kind of connected to a collective. And when that went away, he's like teaching trumpet classes on Wednesday nights now to make a living and that kind of stuff, because that's what you got to do. So I thought about trying to get volunteers to come in and figure out and learn how to run the live stream at the Drika and all of that. And honestly, with this, I know school's out soon. Some of the key people that I can count on for things are going to be going away on, summer vacation. They got family obligations, all that kind of stuff. It just was going to be a lot of trouble. And given that some nights when we were there, we'd have a dozen people, and some nights when we were there, we'd have 3. And that doesn't get better during the summer. That gets worse because summer vacations and snowbirds and all of that kind of stuff. So I said, all right, well, let's go back to doing this for now. And then let's figure out what to do in the fall. And so I'm hoping that we come up with a solution that's really good by fall. And it might be that we go back to the UU church, but hopefully with some slight modifications to what's been going on. Because again, the one thing that I will not do is I will not abandon the people who have been joining me here, who are not in DeLand or not in a position to attend meetings on Wednesday nights. So, I'm not going to stop live streaming, regardless of where we are. So the ideal situation is we'll have a place where we can meet in person and we can live stream those meetings. And so that's the plan as it exists right now. That's why I'm back home, and I expect to be back home probably at least into August. It'd be nice to know what we're going to do by the time like school starts back up at Stetson. So if I'm still in town, I won't have that to be dealing with. So anyway, I welcome your ideas on that. If you have thoughts on what might be our next step, I'd love to hear them. And I'm still hoping, by the way, that we can find a weekend that works for for people to get together and have a big community picnic. I'd love to meet at Pontoon Island on a Saturday and, and just be in fellowship. It is this whole thing really, this and some conversations that other conversations and email correspondences I've had over the last couple of weeks, it makes me wonder what organizations like ours are going to look like 20 years from now. And I've talked a little bit about this before, but, I think the days I appreciate that, Chris. And I think, that when we get back together, whatever that's going to look like, that one of the things we need to do before we start is we need to have a group of people that are committed to being there and doing the stuff that needs to get done, which is nominal. I mean, it's not a lot depending on what we do. I mean, at White Sands, I mean, they take on a lot, because they make food for everybody, and then they sell it. It's a fundraiser for White Sands, but there's like 20 people, most of them Vietnamese, but not all of them, who show up like Saturday night and start getting ready for Sunday morning. And there's one guy who runs the PowerPoint and the sound system, and and all of that. And the poor guy is, he's beat to death by this, and because it's not an easy job, and there's one person to ring the case bell and one person to bang on the big fish drum, and nuns chanting and all this stuff. We keep it much simpler, and I would like to keep it, and I intend to keep it simpler. But even so, if there's things like live streaming, then it's real easy for me to do here. I have a laptop computer that sits on my desk, which is 6 feet that way, or less. So it's a very small office. And so I just move my laptop over onto my desk and aim it at the altar and log on to YouTube and post it in Facebook. I'm ready to go, and I don't even have to leave the house to do it. It's real easy. But when we go to another place and when we try to do something that's technically a little bit more elaborate, then, that's the issue. Where was I? Oh, it may be that what we end up doing is doing events and live streaming or something like that. I mean, I remember, so most of I used to be a journalist, and that ended pretty much about 2010 for the most part. I still did a little freelancing for a while, but eventually that phased out, and doing Buddhism took up more and more. So, but I remember having this conversation with my boss, who said, people will always walk out to the end of their driveway and pick up the newspaper. That's going to 100 years from now, people are going to be doing that. I was like, you're delusional, because even then it was few people still did it, but not very many, or not as many. When I first moved to DeLand, I would walk the dog. This was 2002 or 3, I'd be walking the dog, and I'd count to see, because I was writing for the News Journal, and it's like every driveway either had a News Journal or a Orlando Sentinel, in some cases both. And so I would count and see how we were doing, as I walked around the block with the dog. Now, maybe 1 out of 10 driveways has a newspaper in it. And the newspaper's gotten tiny. So I suspect it's not going to be that way long. And so I say that because I think the idea that everybody's going to go to church on Sunday morning or Wednesday night, in our case, and stuff like that is, I think it's going to be less common. And there are advantages to that, and there are disadvantages to that. So I think religion in general, spirit is going to look real different 50 years from now. I won't be here 50 years from now. I'll be here 20 years from now, and I'll be probably. And I suspect it will be quite a bit different by then. I being a university chaplain, it's given me an interesting view on things, because fewer and fewer people are religious in the kind of traditional sense of, I go to the Baptist church with my family on Sunday, and and that's just kind of infuses my view of life, but I'm not like devout. I mean, it's always growing up, everybody around me was Christian, but most people weren't all that serious about it. They went to church because it's what you did. But, if you tried to have an in-depth conversation with them about spirituality, most of them would have no idea what to say, So, so there's actually very little of that. What there seems to be a growing amount of are people who identify as who practice some form of spirituality, multiple forms of spirituality, perhaps, you know, and at the other end of the but many of them don't even consider themselves religious. And even if I'll ask them, are you religious? No, I don't believe in religion. I'm spiritual, but I don't think you need religion to be spiritual. Uh, which, in fact, I was corresponding with someone in Thailand, an American who's in Thailand, um, and they're clearly doing very things that you would identify as religious things, but it said, I don't think, I don't feel like I'm religious. And I think that that's more and more common. And the other end of the spectrum are the people who are more and more ideological, let's put it that way, in their orientation. And so, there's middle ground, but it's real sort of hard to identify exactly what it is. There's people who are not atheists, they're not agnostic, but they're also not anything that you would recognize as religious. So, but yet we all need to live a spiritual life. We're all living a spiritual life. The question is, it's a very intentional one. Is it a healthy one? Or are you just latching on to, some form of materialism or some ideology, And so there's going to be a place for spirituality and for spiritual traditions and all of those things, but it's going to look different. Just as there's still news, but it's just a totally different format in a lot of cases. Not much in the way of newspapers, but there's still news. In some ways, it's not very reliable. In some ways, it wasn't reliable before, but at least you could kind of figure out who you could trust. Now it's just really a mess. And hopefully religion, that doesn't happen to spirituality. So that was not what I was going to talk about tonight. I actually had plans for a Dharma talk. I only got 3 minutes, but I'll go a little bit over. So, tomorrow is Cinco de Mayo. Are you aware of this? For many of you, by the time you see this, it will be Cinco de Mayo. So I love Mexican food. And I was eating enchiladas one day. And I thought of that phrase, the whole enchilada. And I thought, what does that mean? Crap. Yeah, my battery's getting low. It says I got to plug in my PC. I'll talk for a little bit more anyway, and then I'll probably go away. So religion, a spiritual practice, has some components, just like an enchilada. You need certain things. You need a wrapper. You need a filling. You need a sauce. With spirituality, you need a practice. You need an ethic, and you need a view of the world that allows you to connect with something greater than yourself. And that's where sort of personal spiritual plans that aren't really grounded in any tradition or anything like that can become kind of an issue. Is that, a lot of the time people will just kind of pick what seems sort of resonant with them or what seems attractive. But you got to have the whole enchilada. Anyway, my battery's about to die. Thank you very much for being here. And sorry that I went so far off the rails, but I'll be back to normal next week. And so have a good Wednesday night, and I'll see you again soon.